So when I was 6 years old, my dad was tragically killed in a car accident. And I used to ask people a lot. I used to ask God a lot, God, why didn't you intervene? Like, why? My dad was a pastor, he was a missionary, he did so much for you. Why didn't you step in and save him, or made it so that he wasn't in that bus at the time? And throughout, what do people call it, like the Christian walk, it's not like I ever doubted God existed. I just didn't really think that he was good enough to follow and obey. I didn't think that he was a good father and all the other stuff that Christians say he is. I honestly didn't believe that, because ultimately I couldn't understand why God didn't, why God let my dad die, or I kind of blamed God for not intervening. And a lot of the things people used to ask me, like my friends who aren't Christians, they say, oh, do you believe in God because just for the hope that you would see your dad again, or do you believe in God because it makes you feel better? And honestly, I literally would look at in disgust, because nothing really can really help to take the pain of losing a father. It's not this a teddy bear that believing in God isn't this teddy bear that's just oh, it makes me feel better, but obviously it's not real, I don't know if I've explained myself well. Before I had a relationship with God, I believed in God because I've just found it to be true. I've seen people get healed, I've seen people step out of wheelchairs, I've seen too many things to not believe he existed. But there's a difference between believing that he exists and having a relationship with him. And the thing that stopped me, was stopping me from having a relationship with God, was because I could not escape the fact that he let my dad die, that I felt like he let my dad die. I shared about this on my testimony, and I've shared about this in church before, and I've shared about this, I wrote it down on my blog actually, so it's down below, a little bit more detail about my life. But I remember one day being read or reading the story of Lazarus. If you don't know the Bible, Lazarus was this guy who died, who was a friend of Jesus. And then basically what happened is that Jesus' friends were come on, Lazarus has died. And then basically what happened was Jesus healed Lazarus and he came back to life. That's kind of how I've always remembered the story. But this time when reading it, I was really struck by the shortest verse in the Bible, which was that Jesus wept. And I can understand this. I didn't understand why on earth would Jesus weep when he knew he was about to bring Lazarus back to the dead. When he knew everything was going to be okay. Why did he weep? And it completely, in that moment, it's I had a revelation that, yes, Jesus, God, he's all powerful. Yes, he knows what's going to happen. Yeah, he knew he was going to heal that person. Not just that, it goes above and beyond that he feels as we do. When I'm upset, my mum gets upset because she feels my pain. And so that really blew my mind, being because this God that I thought was this distant, horrible, uncaring God was actually, through his son, revealed to me that he was actually present in my pain. But with that, I still couldn't understand why on earth, why didn't he just stop and control everything? Why didn't you just control everything? Why did you create humans if you knew they were just going to mess up? All this stuff. But then, because of that revelation that he was present in my pain, it caused me to actually, how many misconceptions, how many beliefs of God that I have, and judgments I have of God isn't true. And that kind of began the whole, okay, let me learn a little bit more about this and let me see whether I can even change my point of view. I'm not sure, because no one else could convince me. Nobody else could convince me. I made my mind up. God is this distant, uncaring God. And so I started to learn about free will. And God is love. That's the way God is described in the Bible a lot, is that God is love. He epitomizes what love is. And the thing is about love is that love, it can't exist without free will. It physically can't. You cannot force someone to love you. That isn't love. That is abuse. That is manipulation. You cannot force somebody to love you. So with God being love and wanting us to love him and wanting to live in this ideal world, and there's a link that explains what Christians believe. I'll pop that down below as well. But God being love, he had to allow free will for us to choose to love him back. With free will comes the ability to love, it comes the ability to choose to do good things, it comes the ability to be good parents, to love their child well, to not be abusive, it comes all these choices. But with that comes the ability to be a terrorist and to drive recklessly and kill someone's father and all this stuff. And as I began to understand free will and the power of choices, I couldn't then blame God for someone else's choice, it was not, Christians used to always say to me, oh, everything happens for a reason, and all of it, sorry, I always do that mocking voice whenever I say something I don't like. And like, oh, what else do they say? Like almost borderline saying, oh, this was God's intention, therefore things are gonna be okay because God always has a good plan. Like that literally never sat right with me. Like that was one of the biggest reasons why I struggled to have a relationship with God, because of this idea that he planned for my dad to be in that car and die. It's just so something else good might happen from it. Like that didn't sit right with me. That seemed uncaring, that seemed malicious, that did not seem nice at all. But the reality isn't that God actually put him in that car to die. It was that he was in that car, he was in the accident, somebody chose to drive recklessly, killed my dad in a car accident. And through that, because God is such a good and loving father, he's allowed good things to come out of a bad situation. Like, and I wrote a blog post about I'm glad my dad died, which sounds horrific, but it's in the link below. I'm waffling. And now that I begin to actually explore and have a relationship with God, and I know God as Papa, as Father, like now it seems even ridiculous for me to think, oh my goodness, my dad, God intended that to happen. And that's why it hurts me when people are like, oh, God is this and God loves suffering, and God, because that is not, it's like someone saying my mum loves suffering, you know, like it's just like, actually I know my mum and that's not her heart at all. Like she would never want anybody to suffer and be in pain. So the question, God, why did you let my dad die, isn't really a question anymore, because it's more complicated than that. It's like the whole thing of free will. And so the thing is that God, the answer really is that God never intended for my dad to be killed in that car accident. God never intended for me to grow up with a fatherless and to go through so much pain as a 6-year-old. And that answer kind of diffuses the whole why did you let? Because to be honest, the whole why does God heal some people and why does he not heal other people is a whole nother discussion. So yeah, I hope me kind of rambling my thoughts on this question helps you. I know I have a lot of friends who don't believe, who don't understand why I would even want anything to do with God after everything I've gone through. But I just wanted to share my heart on that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, then click subscribe to my lifestyle channel.